Alright, so here we go. John's ready, sitting on the bench. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little video, just like some basic maintenance I do to these. Nothing much, just greasing the sprocket bearing, and usually I like to take the starter apart and clean the pulley and everything and put a little grease there. And we'll just do kind of an overview of the saw because I didn't really talk about it in the last video on it. So I'm going to get some shit together here and then we're going to make it happen. Alright, so Jonsered 80 cc's from Bob out in Colorado. Good running saw. Just a neat machine. Runs great. Everything operates as it should. I believe these all came with like a 3/4 wrap bar that come down here like this. He had removed it because I guess he didn't like it in the way there. And that's what it is with those full wraps and half wraps. Some people like them, some people hate them. But alright, first things first, I'm going to take the bar and chain off of here, and we're going to do the sprocket bearing. This saw is real similar to all the Jonsereds of the time frame. The way it's built and designed, it's pretty much they came up with the design and then just scaled it up, you know, to the different models. This thing makes a stupid amount of compression. It's like I got this Husqvarna gauge. Let's see if it'll, yeah. I got this Husqvarna gauge and it'll pin that sucker. I'll show it to you once I get this bar off of here. And then this is basically just the same clutch cover that they use for all those Jonsereds, 49s, 52s, 621s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all of that. So that's one of the things that's really nice about these, is they just use the same one all the way up through. Still doing the inner and outer bar plate thing. Most of the modern manufacturers got away from that. And this one's got, I think this is an Oregon bar. Yeah. And then that's the mount at DO96. That's a Jonsered mount. I think that's a 10mm slot, something like that. I'm not 100% positive. And then most of the Jonsereds at the time frame, they would use an 8-pin sprocket, the rim. So this one's looking a little bit worn. I'll probably just end up replacing it while I got it off. Now I'm going to take the top cover off, just to, because we're going to get a look at it anyways. I got to take the plug out to stop up the piston to grease this bearing and everything anyways, so, and inspect it. I want to get a good look at what's going on there. So the coil on these is actually in the top cover. Or the CDI box. I think the coil's underneath the flywheel. Like the pickup. Because this was the interim in between points and just like a one-piece solid state rig. This thing still has the plastic plug cover, which you don't see that much of. Another interesting caveat with the Jonsereds is they always would take that little cap off the plug, and then the plug terminal fits on that. So let's see if I can get in there. There you go. And I don't know why they do that, but they're the only manufacturer I've ever seen that does that. They take the little cap off, and then the terminal fits on there. Alright. So we're going to take the cover off. Now you got to be careful when you go to take this cover off, you got a few things in the way. I'll take the plug out because we're going to do that anyways. And then we'll be real careful around this hand guard. Don't want to bust that up. Yeah, we'll take this off. Nice little cylindrical air filter. That sucker's like about brand new. Must have changed it. Never hardly took it out cutting after that. Okay. Disconnect this wire. Let's see. I think that's your CDI box, and then the coil, I think, is the pickup is underneath the flywheel there. I'm not 100% certain, to be honest. I'd have to look. I don't know. I'd have to look. This goes to the kill switch, so I don't know how. I don't know. I gotta look. Alright, anyways, we're gonna do the compression test. Just so you know, it's legit. It's a Husqvarna gauge. Yank my guts out here. And there. She's buried. All these older Jonsereds of these series really make a lot of good compression. I think a weak one's like 180 pounds. I think I have dome pistons, and that's kind of one of the reasons behind it. Alright, anyways, we're going to get this sprocket off here. Yeah, so it's a 17. That's reverse thread. Put that in there. I use one of these piston stops. Some people use rope, some people use other stuff. Just use one of these metal piston stops. They work great. Never had a problem. I think on some of the smaller saws you can bust the top of the piston with it. Okay, so this thing is reverse thread. So we're going to go righty-loosey. It sits right up against the piston stop. And then you can just do that. It comes right off. So we're going to be real careful when we take all this off, because you got small washer, medium washer, big washer. We don't want to have to go and reference the parts diagram. Yeah, look at that. It's actually a bushing. See that? See, you got a bushing there. So, bushing. There you go. There's sprocket bearing. And look, it looks like you can actually grease it from the end. We're going to see. We're going to find out. A lot of the pro saws you can grease from the end if they have it like right angle drilled. So, here's your rim. There you go. Here's the old 8-pin there. Yeah. She's a little worn, so we'll put a new one on it. There's your sprocket. Nice shape. Yep, and see, actually you can grease them. Yep, you can grease them from the end, so you can just take a grease gun, put it in the stub there, push the grease, and it'll go up and grease the bearing. That's great. All these older Jonsereds here, get that clutch off, you got to take this washer off here. And you got to use a puller because they're press fit onto there. It's keyed and everything. There's 2 washers there. Huh. Yeah. So you can pull this off. What I use is I use a if I got to get it off, I use one of those Husky flywheel pullers. I'll show you here. So this is the Husky flywheel puller. Okay. So this is like your kind of like jig that you screw into the flywheel with. And it's kind of universal. You can make it work almost on anything. And you thread this guy in. Focus, you fuck. Okay. You just thread this guy in, like this. And then you just use this to press up against the flywheel. And it'll pretty much pull any flywheel. As long as you can get, as long as there's threads in there. So a lot of times what you have to do is you have to take the pawls out or whatever. But these work great, and you can knock on the end of this with a hammer. Sometimes you might want to heat up around the flywheel if you got a really difficult one or a clutch, and you just, you know, get it a little bit warm, crank the thing down, tap on it, and most of the time she'll just pop right off. This tool is indispensable. This is a great tool. Echo makes one that's similar. You know, that's similar, like universal thing. It doesn't have this handle on it like this. It's just like a square, but it has a similar, whatever you want to call this guy. And then Steel, smart enough to just thread most of their flywheels, and then when they're threaded, you just use this tool here. And this is the same thing. It'll either thread into the flywheel with this. I think it's a 22 and a 29 millimeter thread or something like that. And then you just tighten this bad boy down and poop, the flywheel just comes right off. Okay. So anyways, we got this thing apart here. Even though we could grease it from the end, I wasn't so sure of that because I'm not an expert on anything really. So I'm learning too. But we were able to find out that we can just grease from the end here so we don't have to take this whole thing apart. But it's nice to take it apart anyways, especially if you haven't been in one before, and have a look-see at what's going on. Make sure everything's in good shape. If the condition of this saw is any indicator, everything should be in good shape. Yeah. Usually I just put a little grease around there. I use that red Armor grease, mainly because I'm an Echo shop, so I have access to it and I use it. Put that bad boy back on there. Well, I'll stick like this. There we go. Yeah, there she is. And then, I'm going to have to grab an 8-pin rim. I'm going to have to check around here a minute and see. I'm going to put you on pause for just a second here. Best part about having a saw shop is having all this shit just sitting here that I can go grab. So for me, a lot of this stuff moves, like these projects move at light speed because I can just go grab stuff off the shelf a lot of times, which is great. Back in the day before I had a shop, you know, and I just did stuff at home, there's a rim there. When I just do stuff at home, you know, you don't have that ability to do that, you know, and you're waiting a week every time you find out you need some little small part or a little piece of fuel line or whatever. But because I'm doing repairs a lot and selling parts a lot, then it affords me the ability to have a lot of the stuff on the shelf, like these rims and stuff like that. So you end up starting to do things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. And then usually what I do with this piston stop is, because the way the pawls work is if the flywheel's going forward like this, it doesn't engage the starter. But if you take it backwards, it'll pull on the rope. So like if you're trying to crank something down and put torque on it, you end up pulling on the rope and you're not getting the proper torque that you want on the nut. So what I do is I'll look down in the cylinder and I'll take the piston right beyond top dead center, okay? And if you take it right beyond top dead center and put that piston stop in there, it's going to back right up to the piston stop. And it's not going to get, the pawls aren't going to engage, and it's not going to get jammed on the rope instead of the piston stop itself. So you can put the torque down on this thing now whenever you go to tighten it up, instead of just going up against the rope. Okay. And that be the end of that. Now that she's greased, we got a new rim. Feel pretty good about that. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this starter while we're here. I got to tell you that ignition system kind of has me intrigued on this. I got to do some homework here. I already looked over the fuel line and everything on this. Fuel line's in good shape. The filter looks great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out. I think I'm going to go out and cut some firewood over the weekend here. Today is Saturday. So I usually take off Sunday and Monday. So over the next couple days I'm probably going to go out and cut some firewood. And, well, we're going to take this along with us. See how she goes. I got to get that chain sharpened up and everything. Now Bob, the guy that I got this off of, said that he had replaced the starter on it. So this is the original. I think he just said he replaced it because the grill was a little bit dented up. Still has the decal on it. But the one that he replaced it with, it never came with the decal on it. So, I don't know. I might switch it back to the other one. I don't know. Anyways, usually when I take these recoils apart, it depends on how the rope goes in, but I'll pop this out of here. Like I said, I'm going to take this apart just to grease that shaft in there and everything. So I let the tension out of them nice and gentle so they don't go flying all over the place. So if you just cut the rope like that, you can just ease the tension out of them. Like that. Hopefully. I remember early in my days of messing with these saws, I'd send them springs flying a lot of times. Because I didn't totally understand what was going on there. Now, I do everything I can to ensure that that spring don't go flying. Because that's a pain in the ass when it does. I'll probably end up replacing this rope while I'm here. Okay. There we go. Nice little washer. Little machine screw. Okay. And then what I like to do is I like to clean all this up. Make sure this is all clean. I like to put like a little dab of grease on this shaft. And then just inside here. Inside the pulley. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to replace this. Try to, anyways. See if I get a grip on it. Some of the older starter rope is a little more challenging to get a grip on so you can yank it out of there. Oh, there she is. Okay, looks like 4mm. What do we have here? Yep. That be 4mm. Yeah. We'll go with 4. Okay, usually I just like heat the end of it up. Always looking for this lighter. I used to smoke cigarettes back in the day. It's pretty easy to find the lighter. I quit them damn things, I don't know, 5 years ago. So now I'm always looking for the lighter. Okay. I usually just tie a little knot in the end. I think these used to come with like a little pin. Okay. Yeah. That'd be good. I might just go with a 3.5mm rope instead. I think that's might be what it was. It's hard to tell. Do the same thing. Yeah, I think it was a 3.5. Okay. Tie a little knot in that, just a little square knot. Yep. That'll do her. And we just go down through the top here. The pulley. She ain't going nowhere. And then I always just try and think of it like how that pulley, whenever you're pulling it, that it goes up like this. So I just got to remember that when I'm wrapping this thing around here, that I put it on there right. Because if you don't, you get that spring tension. You're going to be wishing you did. So usually I just set that pulley up like that. Leave a little bit out of it. And make a nice little thing on this end too. Because I'm going to be doing the dance here after I get it all tensioned up. We'll have it tensioned and we're going to try and put it through that little eyelet here. Okay, here we go. That be done. So now we're going to grease the shaft up a little bit. Nothing crazy, because that'll mess everything up. I just put a little dab inside that in the bushing. And this grease is pretty nice stuff. It's sticky, so it won't melt out like that Molly grease will just melt out and go everywhere. This stuff's got some like tackiness to it. Okay. Got this here. Got this here, because we're going to need all of this. Okay. And then whenever you put this in there, you're going to want to make sure that this guy engages that spring right there. Shouldn't have to force it or nothing. It should just go down in. What am I missing here? Did I drop a bushing? Huh. Did I drop a little something out of this? Hold on, I'm gonna have to do some homework. Well, this was in the other starter. I didn't notice this fall out of anything. Little nylon bushing. That's about right. Okay, anyways, you go there. And then maybe I dropped one. I don't know. We're gonna find it when we sweep the floor, buddy. Or maybe it just never got transferred over. I can't say. Okay, anyways. That go in there like that, and then like I said, we just make sure that that sits down in there nice. There it goes, drops right in. Always put the screw in, don't forget. You're going to have that thing under tension, and if you let off and that pulley comes out of the hole there, you're going to be rewinding that spring. If you've ever rewound one of those springs, you'd be wishing you didn't have to. There's some tricks to doing it, and you can get better at it. Make it easier, but it's never fun. It's never good. Usually what I do is about 2.5 turns, maybe 3. Every starter is a little bit different. This one is probably going to work with just 2. Just put the tension to it. And then up through there she goes. And then if you want, whenever you're tying the knot and everything inside your, you can just take a pair of these. I take these hemostats. These are very useful tool when messing with saws. You can just take it and put it right there. Set the thing on the bench. Up through here we go. And you're not trying to hold the tension. I still hold the tension because I'm a hardhead. I usually don't put the hemostats there, but this is a little trick if you want to do it. And in she goes. There you go. Now you got a new starter rope. She's greased. There you go. There you go. Now we're going to move on to the chain sharpening end of things. Show you what I do there. I'm not too much of a finesse man when it comes to that. We sharpen a bunch of chain. Nobody ever complains. I sharpen my own chains and they cut pretty good. But some people are real, real meticulous when it comes to that. I just use my little chain grinder over here. And I don't get too scientific about it. Okay, I use a one of these Tecumec Super Jollies. It's a pretty decent little grinder, and I use them diamond wheels. The thing that's nice about the diamond wheels, they don't heat up as much as the stone ones, and you're not constantly dressing them, reshaping them. So like if you got a bad tooth or whatever, you can grind through it without bluing the tooth like the stone wheels would, or having to make a bunch of passes. The other thing that's nice about this is that it's got the hydraulic vise, so as you bring it down, it squeezes the chain, so you're not constantly like unlocking the vise. It's not bad, doing that if you have like, if you're just doing your own personal chains, but whenever you got like 20 chains here that need sharpened, well, you're trying to make it a little easier on yourself, and I don't do enough to justify like a big expensive machine, so this works good. The other thing is too, like this chain's in pretty decent shape overall. Usually try and find the most damaged tooth and start there. But this one is pretty close all the way across the board. The other thing about this, I don't get like all fanatical about sharpening or whatever. I just sharpen at 30 degrees and 55, and I keep this guy at a 0. I don't do that 10% up or 10 degree up angle on it or anything for the chisel. We sharpen a bunch of chains for customers, and nobody ever complains really, and I sharpen my own chains for when I go out, and they cut great. So that's my attitude towards it. There's definitely people out there that probably sharpen a lot better than I do, but I'm not too worried about it. Okay, so anyways, I usually try and find the worst one first and start there, but this one is pretty great, so it's just going to need a little bit to get sharp again. I mean, this thing you could take it out and cut with it. So usually what I do is I get this thing set up, and the first cutter is really like the most important one to get you set up to what the rest of them are going to look like. So that's the one that you're going to have to take the most time with, is the first one. And I usually clean this gullet section out pretty good. Take it almost, I don't take it into the tie strap, but I clean it out pretty good. See? There we go. I'm just going to take it up just a little bit more. And see, that should cut just great. And see, it doesn't heat that tooth up at all. Not bad, anyways. Them stone wheels, whenever you grind with those things, you can see the tooth get red if you take it in too hot. As long as you get your angles right, all you really got to worry about your depth. What do we have here? See that, Weiser? See that? You got two cutters right. Huh. What's going on there? There we go. Little strange. Well, that side's done. What are we getting stuck on here? Hi, Rich. Should be ready to cut tomorrow.